In the 11th century, the territory of Bengal was ruled by the Pala Empire. In the year 1022, an invading army marched from 1600 kilometers away and raided the Pala kingdom and waged a military offense. The invaders defeated the Palas and pillaged the royal temple and confiscated the golden Shiva idol of the temple and carried it off back to their capital in triumph. These invaders were none other than the Cholas of South India under the king Rajendra I. To understand the Cholas' aggressive raid, we must first look at the contemporary Indian political culture. Indian political culture was based on the Mandala system. According to the scholar Richard Eaton, the Indian political world consisted of tribal chieftains, little kings, bigger kings, and the emperor, who was the king of all kings. To achieve the status of the emperor, Indian kings relentlessly waged military campaigns against bordering kingdoms. This was called Digvijaya, or conquest of the quarters, where a king would attempt to conquer the kingdoms to his north, south, east, and west. The goal was not to completely take over the kingdoms, or to annihilate the current ruling dynasty, or to replace them, but to create loyal vassal states who could be used as allies against future enemies. In the case of the Cholas, Rajendra desired to be that world emperor, according to the Indian worldview. According to the remaining inscriptions, upon becoming king, he invaded Sri Lanka to his south and subdued the ruling kingdom to his vassalage. He then subdued the Pandya kings to his south, and then the king of Kerala to the west, and then the Chalukyas of the Deccan Plateau. This dominance was not enough for him, as from here he would launch the expedition against the Palas of Bengal. However, the raid on Bengal had additional objectives. Rajendra I was inspired by a poem from Indian literature, where a legendary king, Bhagirath, escaped the material worldly life for a life of worship, and through performing worship and penance, convinced Shiva to bring down the Ganges water from the heavens to the earth. Rajendra I also wanted to be that man, and during the Bengal campaign, Rajendra I and his army went to the Ganges river and loaded buckets of water from the river and carried them back to the south of the Chola's base in triumph. In a symbolic fashion, he declared himself Gangikonda Chola, the Chola who took the Ganges river. He then builds a majestic temple 9 stories high, where he stored this Ganges water in a well. Rajendra did not take the Ganges from the heavens, but rather he took it from the north to the south, further legitimizing himself as a world emperor to the masses in a symbolic fashion. The Cholas would be a powerful international empire, having influence all the way in the Malay Peninsula, and becoming economic players controlling the trade of the region. Concerning temples, kings in India always had a royal temple decorated with gold and wealth, which symbolized his glory and might. Throughout medieval history, Indian kings, while seeking to subdue their rivals, would often pillage temples and at times desecrate them, and then confiscate the wealth and the gold and the statue of the temple's main deity as war booty, and sort of like a victor's trophy. Therefore, the Chola raid on Bengal was not a unique event and was already ingrained into Indian political culture and warfare. Other reported examples are in the 8th century, Bengali troops raided Kashmir and allegedly destroyed a Vishnu Vaikunta image that the Kashmiri king patronized. In the early 10th century, when King Indra III of the Rashtrakuta dynasty sacked the Kalapriya temple of their enemies, the Pratirahas. In the 12th and 13th century, Paramara kings of Malwa are said to have plundered Jain temples in Gujarat. This all goes to show that the India we know today was never a single entity historically, and was a land of warring kings and dynasties, all fighting for political dominance.